I'm just going to ask them, how much of this do you think the town's going to pay me? And see what they say.
Hey. Oh. Good evening. I will call to order the May 1st, 2025 Smyrna Municipal Planning Commission. And with that, if you'll stand with us, Mark's going to lead us in prayer and Ken in the pledge.
Bow with me, please. Father, we just come to you today, Father, with grateful hearts once again. Lord, we just thank you for a beautiful day here in town. And Father, we just continue to ask your blessings and protections upon the people that make this town run. And that's all of our employees, Father, and everybody that works in first response services, our fire and police departments, each employee that's out there making the streets safe. Father, we also ask that you look after our citizens as well, Father, and just continue to forgive us where we fail you. We know we do. We take everything for granted. We thank you for those things. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Ken. Our next item is citizens' comments.
We have none tonight.
Okay, and I'll just take this opportunity to remind everybody that the public comment period is reserved for those citizens that have signed up to address a board or committee at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting pursuant to the town's public comment policy. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and additional comments can be submitted in writing. Okay, we are now on to our next item, which is approval of the minutes of the April 3rd, 2025 meeting and approval of the minutes of the April 24, 2025 quarterly meeting. Counselor, are the meeting minutes in order?
In order, unless you have any amendments.
Okay, so I'll turn this to the commission. Are there any questions or discussions concerning the minutes?
Just a question, if you're not here, are you entitled to vote on the minutes?
Yes.
Okay,
I'll move to approve.
I have a motion to approve the minutes from Matt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Selena. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. We are now on to our next item, which is a public hearing, and the first item is plan of services for 452 Property LLC.
Yes, the next two items on your agenda, the state law does require the planning commission to hold a public hearing on any plan of services, which is for any properties that are requested to be annexed into the town. And so you do need to hold the public hearing. I would recommend on both of these, just to not make a recommendation at this point, but just when we get to the point where we're discussing each annexation request, there's really no reason to recommend a plan of services unless you want to recommend the annexation. So just wait until the end to actually vote on them. But we did want to set aside that separate time for the plan of services to be for the public hearing to be held. So just again, just would recommend that you hold those public hearings. Again, for the audience and anyone else, the plan of services, this just puts in writing the services that would be provided by the town if the property is annexed into the town. So,
Okay. Then I will open the public hearing. We'll first entertain anyone that would like to come up and speak for or against the plan of services for 452 Properties LLC. When you come up, if you'll state your name and address, and I will remind everybody that under this, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, not seeing anyone to speak for or against the plan of services for 452 Properties LLC, so I will close the public hearing on that. So our second item under public hearing is the plan of services for Weekly Homes LLC. And again, I will open this up to the public for anyone that wants to come forward to speak for or against this plan of services. Not seeing one here either, so I will now close the public hearing on the plan of services for Weekly Homes LLC, and we will hold on any potential vote for these properties until we come up and see these under the rezoning annexation and plan of services requests when we hear those agenda items. So with that, we are on to old business. Our first is annexation, zoning, and plan of service request, Joe Haddock's Bill France Road and Interstate 840, annexation I-2, C2, and R3 zoning request.
Yeah, this is a request that's been on the agenda multiple times over the last couple of years and has been deferred multiple times. These same properties are the subject of the 452 properties request with a different zoning plan. So it would be our recommendation, just so that there's a clear ending point for this request. It has not been withdrawn, so it does need to be acted on. Just that you would recommend denial of this request, and then that way we just kind of clean that off the books and it can move forward with the other requests, however we choose to do that later on.
Okay. You've heard Kevin's explanation of this. Does anyone have any questions or comments concerning this item?
So essentially, this is being replaced by the 452 properties request.
Correct, with a different zoning. It's the same properties, but just a different zoning plan.
Okay.
Other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Make a
Motion to
motion
deny.
and a second.
So I have a motion to deny and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of denying this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion has been denied. We are now on to preliminary plats, estates at Williamsport Drive, owner developer RMG Development. Kevin, if you,
This is a preliminary plat that has been, once again, requested to be deferred. We are meeting with them tomorrow. There's some things they're trying to work through on some of the grading on the site. And so they did request a meeting, our meeting with them tomorrow to discuss that and try to figure out whatever those issues are and come to some sort of resolution. So we would be okay with a 1 more month deferral on that. At some point, we'll need to just go ahead and, again, stop that process, but we're okay with 1 more month deferral on that.
okay, you've heard Kevin speak concerning this preliminary plat motion or request. So any further questions for him?
I'll make a motion to defer it till next month.
I have a motion to defer for 1
Second.
month. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of deferring this preliminary plat, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This preliminary plat has been deferred. We are now on to new business. The first item is annexation, zoning, and plan of service request for 452 Properties LLC, Bill France Road and I-840 annexation and PUD zoning request.
Yeah, this is an annexation request. If it's one tract of land as well as a portion of another tract of land. Their total acreage that has been requested to be annexed is 818.3 acres. Currently zoned RM in Rutherford County. They're undeveloped vacant tracts of land. The surrounding zoning in this area is all RM in Rutherford County. The land use plan for this area there's 2 tracts that are separated. The tract on the west that's along 840 is part of our 840 Gateway Character area. Support a mix of hospitality, restaurant, retail, high-density residential, and industrial warehousing uses. The eastern portion, which is the larger of the 2 tracts, is in our mixed industrial policy area, which would support a mixture of industrial and warehousing uses. The major thoroughfare plan does designate Bill France Road as a principal arterial, and it also shows a future minor arterial, which would connect Bill France Road to Hickory Grove Road and eventually to Jefferson Pike. Development of these properties would require dedication of that right-of-way and construction of that improvement, and they are showing conceptually that improvement on their plans, at least for their portion of that roadway. This requested PUD there's really a couple of things why they requested a PUD versus just C2 and I2. Essentially, it's about 34.3 acres of this property to be zoned C2 and the remainder to be zoned I2. And with the reasoning for the PUD is they would like a height limit, requested a height limit of 60 feet in the I2 areas in lieu of the 50-foot limit. It's just what's allowed by the zoning ordinance in I2. The maximum square footage shown on their concept plan and on their plans for in that C2 area is 350,000 square feet. In the I2 area, it's 8.5 million square feet. There would not be any, within that development also, there would not be any pole signs allowed. They would all be ground signs and then other wall signs and all as allowed by the sign ordinance. Number 5 was kind of an informational comment regarding the minimum fire flow is 2,000 GPM or 20 PSI with a sprinkler reduction. This annexation, there's a couple options. One that we would recommend over the other, but I'll go through both options. The non-contiguous annexation is allowed under state law now, or to make it contiguous, would have to annex approximately 1 mile of the right-of-way of West Jefferson Pike, about 9/10 of a mile of the right-of-way of Bill France Road. Those are state highways. And then 4.2 miles of Mona Road, 8/10 of a mile of Allen Barrett Road, and then 2.2 miles of Powell's Chapel Road. Those are all county roads, and those are approximate. If we do a non-contiguous annexation, it does require an interlocal agreement between the town and Rutherford County with regards to emergency response and road maintenance for the area between the two. And so essentially we would most likely end up taking on the responsibility as if we annexed it anyway. So it makes sense to, and that's what we would recommend if you do choose to annex these properties, that you would annex those existing roadways to make it contiguous. Annexation of those roads would require the town to begin maintenance, as well as provide emergency services, including traffic accident response and traffic control upon the effective date of the annexation. And we got some additional information later on that we'll get to on that as well. One thing I do, and Mitch, if you could run, Mitch, could you run and get my laser pointer? I forgot to bring it, the laser pointer. Yeah, I forgot to bring it up here. I think it might be helpful.
We have one up here. Charles,
Oh, we have one? Okay, that's right.
That's mine.
'Cause I think it might be helpful in some of this to
works
kind of
good.
refer to. Appreciate that.
I don't know.
Okay.
Got some weapons.
Went off and left the office without it. Okay. There's kind of this is kind of an odd quirk, I guess. If you can see kind of on here, there's kind of a dashed green line. That's kind of the mapped county boundary, and there's also a solid red line. The difference in that is the solid red line is the area that basically is the assessment boundary. Basically, the parcel, the Rutherford County the Rutherford County side is assessed in Rutherford County. The Wilson County side is assessed in Wilson County, regardless of what the boundary actually is. We cannot annex outside our urban growth boundary. Our urban growth boundary is the county line. So I have a concern about annexation of some of these areas, basically from the standpoint of, can we really legally do the annexation? There's some opinions, I guess, of several land surveyors that basically that assessment line kind of basically becomes the county line. I would rather have a court case or something, as State Attorney General opinion or something that would, I feel a whole lot better about that rather than as far as a legal opinion if that would actually be the case or not. So that's just a concern that I have regarding annexation, and it does affect a portion of the park, primarily not on that western parcel, but it's some of this area here is a primary area that would be affected by that as a part of this request. Sewer would not be available till that Fall Creek trunk line is in place. There is beginnings of a plan to put that sewer in place. This would be still about a 2-year at a minimum. The town will not provide sewer to any property outside of Rutherford County boundaries. And at this time, there's not an agreement on how that sewer will be extended and how and who would be paying for it. So that's still something that needs to be worked through. If the annexation is approved as requested, parts of the area would exceed the 5-mile drive radius from Station 4, and that's primarily this area on this eastern part of it. So obviously, we would have to look at potentially, building another station, equipping it, staffing it. Otherwise, the ISO rating could be jeopardized. So, again, we've got some of those cost information we'll get to in just a minute. As far as the plan itself, we did, this map just shows that the dark blue lines are the roadways where the annexation would have to be, in addition to the parcels, those are the roads we would have to be annexing. And then this plan shows their plan as far as their development plan. We'd had a few comments. We'd asked them to show proposed utility extensions and stormwater facilities. Will still need to be looked at and done. We had a couple other comments which they have addressed. Number one, the PUD requested reference to signs as regulated by the zoning ordinance. It is by the sign ordinance. They corrected that. We can take that one off. And that the landscape buffers they had shown were type C for industrial, abutted residential, and our ordinance would require type D, and that has been changed as well. So this can be removed. There was some discussion within their request regarding certain streets would not require sidewalks based on if they had no curb on them, existing streets, and we would recommend it, the sidewalks we require per what we would require under the zoning ordinance without any exemptions. The last couple of comments were from CUD. This does lie within their area for water service. There is they have come up with a plan to what the improvements would have to be to upgrade the water in this area. I think they're still working through that with regards to again, who's going to pay for it, how much, all those kind of things. And the reason I'm saying that, I keep saying that, I guess, in addition to this this is the first request that's come to you all for annexation. There's a couple other tracts out there, or developers out there that are looking in this area and would like to eventually be coming to you for requests for annexation as well. And so, again, there's a lot of the 3 different developers and different things going on. There's a lot of moving parts on that sewer, and as well as I'm sure the water with CUD as well. So, we did send this to you. The developer did provide kind of a summary or kind of a one-page summary of some. They did do an economic impact analysis, and so that did provide that. So I did want to provide that for the public as well. Their estimates that they submitted, $1.3 billion annual economic impact, and this is just obviously a full build out of their project. A little over 5,800 jobs supported. Those would be jobs at this location as well as the indirect regional impact of the development, other jobs that could be supported as well. 12.4 million indirect sales and property tax. Those are annual numbers. 2 million direct sales tax, and then a little over $200,000 hotel tax. I also did do some calculations for impact fee collections based on their total build out at max build out, and this is at current rates. About 8.6, just under 8.6 million in road fees and about a little over 2 million in public safety fees. Those are collected over the life of the project when permits are issued. So, and they're projecting this would be about a 20-year project. So obviously it would be something that would come in over 20 years. And obviously the numbers could change if the rates change, but that's what we have at current rates. And if this obviously were annexed and sewer were sent to this area, there would be additional development in that area with additional impact fees that we don't know what those would be at this time because we don't know what their development plans are. Again, we did look at some costs, and these are just some numbers that we put together relatively quickly. This is not an in-depth evaluation, but it is we feel pretty good as far as rough estimates. The $10 million sewer construction cost, that would be paid by a developer or developers. That's the sewer, the main and pump station and different things that would be looked at there. The $14 million in road costs, that's, again, those 7.2 miles of existing county roads, just upgrading those shoulders, making them better two-lane roads. That's all that is. That's not any kind of improvements with center turn lanes or anything like that. In addition to that, there are a couple other issues. The Mona Road, that road, there is a bridge over the Fall Creek there. The county has a grant through TDOT to do that upgrade and replace, I believe. Replace that bridge. So hopefully, if we were to annex it, that grant could get transferred to the town, and we could work through that as well. But that's something we need to look at. And then Powell's Chapel Road, there is a low water bridge there that we would have to over Fall Creek that we'd have to look at eventually doing something with as well. So those are the road and sewer issues. Public safety, again, to serve that eastern part of that area, if we have to look at a fire station, a $15 million construction cost there, and $3 million in apparatus, about a $1 million annual staffing cost. Police, just to increase staffing to serve more additional patrol zones, things of that nature. About $750,000 annual staff costs and $700,000 in equipment costs, which that would be every year, but obviously that would have to be continually replaced, but not necessarily every year. So what we put together, I guess at this point, the developer is here. He also informed me that the seller of the property, they have representation here as well. So certainly they would like to, I'm sure, speak to you all and address some things. I think at this point, from our staff level at least, we feel like there's still several issues that we need to address, certainly the sewer agreement and other things we need to be sure we get our head around as far as costs for services, as well as, how we're going to pay for those things. So that's kind of where we're at as a staff level with regards to this request at this time. So I think that's all that I have, Mr. Chairman.
Let's start with this. Let's start with any questions for staff concerning Kevin's discussion.
Yeah, Kevin, you mentioned the Fall Creek trunk line. Is that a project that's in place right now, or is that what's up for discussion about who would fund it?
Yeah, the funding part of it is what's still kind of up for discussion. There has been one of the other, not this particular developer, one of the other folks has engaged an engineering company to design that. And that's, Mr. Parker's here, you might could give you the details better than I could, but I think that's pretty close to being complete. Am I right on design, Mark?
Can you show on the map where that trunk line goes, or does it just follow the creek?
Fall Creek.
It gathers, the creek is right here. It's going to all grab you to that. We're just going to that point though, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir. The intent is we're going to extend sewer from the intersection of Jefferson Pike and 840, cut across the open fields at Jefferson Pike to Mona Road, and follow Mona Road north all the way to where Mona crosses the creek right there where
Right here.
Kevin's pointer's at.
Yeah.
So I'm working with the engineers on that. There's a mature design that's well underway, but nothing is finalized yet until we get a few more answers made.
Thank you.
The conversations we've had up to now has been with that other developer
Right.
about them paying for that.
Correct.
So not to an expense to the town at this point, right?
Yes, sir.
Secondary question, we just, the new fire hall, of course, is on Jefferson Pike there, pretty close in proximity. Would it not cover this area?
It would certainly cover a portion of the area. It's really this eastern kind of area here. And so probably what, in reality, if we move forward with this, is probably in the short term, and maybe the developer can speak to what their plan is, where they're gonna start. This is basically just vacant land currently. There's nobody there, there's nobody living there, there's no structures there. In reality, just from thinking through it, in reality, that's probably something that it would have to be done, but it's probably something that would be down the road a ways, because it would just have to, we'd have to gauge, do you take that leap now when you have other stations potentially in other places that we have to look at? I think budget priorities, I guess, is what the council just have to make those decisions. But for an area that maybe is essentially undeveloped currently, and you wait until maybe some other portions of that area develop and where it makes more sense to make that investment.
Well, wouldn't it have to be sort of south of that to develop? Wouldn't it have to be sort of south of that? I mean, you're up against the urban growth boundary line
We
there.
would, we don't have a specific location. It's
Right.
just, you would want to look at some area that's kind of south and probably south of this area here,
Yeah.
certainly, just to give it a little bit better coverage area.
Which would still put it inside the 5 mile as we sit today.
As we sit today, yeah.
Once you get to more than 5 miles, you're potentially a protection class 10. And the scale starts at 1 being best, 10 being worse.
Right.
Of course, you do take into account proximity of fire hydrants, and it could become a 10W. It could potentially maybe go to a 9, maybe, perhaps. But right now, our ISO rating is for protection class is a 3.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, as a council, we've been very cognizant of. Keep that ISO rating as low as we can. I was gonna ask you, if we annex the property, even though there's no structures or development there, but it's still annexed into the town limits, does that still count against our ISO rating as annexed property, or does there actually have to be development there?
I don't know that I would have a good answer for that. I really don't know.
Yeah, James is saying yes in the back.
Okay.
It still counts against this because it's annexed land. It's land we're responsible for, right, James?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it would really be any accidents along the roads, and then you would have if there's a brush fire or something like that. at this
Yeah, and that brings up another, I guess, crucial point is we're talking about fire and the fire department we just built the fire station, but although that was designed to have a police substation, it does not have one. So police coverage out here, the police department's on Enon Springs Road, so
Right.
it's a good significant way. I mean, even if you add patrols, you're gonna have officers that are significantly away from the station. Or we gotta go ahead and add them to the fire department, to the building on Jefferson Pike sooner.
As far as the boundary between Rutherford, Wilson, what would be a time frame that could potentially be looked at and resolved, or a determination made?
Well, as far as actual establishment of a boundary or correction of a boundary, movement of a boundary, that takes action by the state legislature.
Right.
So that's only folks that are empowered to set county boundaries. So in the state law, the Constitution, state constitution, wherever that's at. But they're the only people that can do that. So obviously that couldn't happen until they're back in session at minimum. If there's some other legal opinions or AG's opinions or court cases or whatever that establishes something else, we can look into that obviously before then. So
It would seem to me if we were headed down that path of least resistance would be an agreement between Smyrna, Rutherford, and Wilson.
right.
to be able to even,
And there, I know at one point, there was some discussion between Rutherford County and Wilson County, at least at the staff level, about working some of those issues out because they know these issues exist. I don't think that ever really came to fruition,
okay,
as far as I know.
all right. Anything else for Kevin at this time?
Just,
The
Charles?
sewer extension, should we extend the sewer, that essentially opens up this area for development. How much capacity do we have in the water sewer treatment plant? And are we beginning to impact on that?
Yes, sir. It will be an impact on the plant. Right now, we average roughly 7 million gallons a day at the plant. That capacity is rated for 9. So we got 2 in excess right now as we stand. And that's because we're 2 years away from just completing a 3 million gallon expansion at the plant itself.
When's our next planned expansion?
It's not scheduled right now.
Okay.
We literally just finished it.
Yeah.
So does the 7 include developments that have been approved, residential?
So that's
Other
what's-
parts of the
I guess
city?
what's-
No, because those are 7 million is actual flows we're seeing at the plant right now. That does not include any of the other developments that we would be bringing online here in the next year or two.
Sounds like we're approaching a tipping point.
What's the future capacity land-wise to expand the plant? How big can it go?
The plant can be expanded to 12 million gallons. There's enough room, there's enough physical room to include the structures at the plant, and the treatment that's already there is capable of getting us to the required permits that we would see when we go for the 12 million permit.
The only caveat still would be TDEC allowing us to put that much water back in, right? We have some limitations on how much we can put in right now.
Not really, sir. The permit is based off of mass loadings. It's not necessarily based off of volume of water. So as long as we're efficient enough to pull the solids out of the waste stream that comes in, you could theoretically throw 30 million gallons at the creek, as long as you're removing all the solids that's required by the permit. And at this point in time, the treatment process that we've got installed at the plant can meet that permit, and with the upgrades that would be required for the 12, we can still maintain that permit.
Okay, I had heard previously, I think by Councilman Dempsey, who was involved in that project, that there was a request to go to 12 or to go ahead and get the 12 approved that was not approved by TDEC.
That they didn't want to approve that permit at this stage right now. They wanted us to get to 9 and then know that that when we are ready to request for the 12, that we've got the plant set up to be able to get there.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then how long, Mark, would it take to expand the plant? I mean, we get to 9, now we're at capacity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what length of time would it take to expand the plant?
It would be a minimum 2.5 years. If we started today to go from 9 to 12, you're looking at 2.5 years to get there.
So with the rate of growth we have here, it would seem like they would be okay with looking at expansion early on as opposed to waiting till we get to capacity.
And we would, sir, yeah. As we get closer to that 9 million mark, we'll start looking at the expansion right now.
And in your opinion, how long do you think it'll take us to get to that 9 million mark, knowing the growth pattern we have?
Probably somewhere between that 8 and 10 year mark, we're gonna have to start looking at the plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes,
Just for, since we're rounding it out, the last upgrade we just did was 30 million, is that right?
35.
35 million. So-
That was to go from 6 to 9.
Right,
So it's roughly 12 million gallons a gallon. It was roughly $12 a gallon.
and that's current price, not.
Current price.
Not
Not later.
8-year price.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
One last question before you walk away, and I'm not sure if you're finished with Steve yet or
I'm
not.
done.
This, I'm just want to confirm, this would all be gravity.
No, sir, it'd be a combination of gravity and force.
That's what I wanted to
This
know.
design's gonna require 2 lift stations and force mains along with a 18-inch gravity line.
Cost of a lift station?
We're looking at was the number that was given earlier.
That's included in
That
that?
was, yes, sir, that was roughly that 10 million mark.
Annual maintenance?
It's,
Depends on how well they operate. Right?
it all depends on what gets pushed to that plant, to that station.
Yeah.
So if you have a bunch of pump failures, it's gonna get costly. If it's just straight domestic waste, those stations are gonna run pretty well.
Okay.
So looking at the cost for the road improvements, it includes everything except one bridge?
The Powell's Chapel.
The bridge at Powell's Chapel is not included in that, right? 'Cause assuming the grant, TDOT gets transferred over to us. Now, that does not include anything beyond really just making those existing county roads better two-lane roads, you know.
So the TDOT grant would cover the bridge.
We hope.
The Mona Road Bridge, we hope so, yes, sir.
Is there another bridge?
The Powell's Chapel Bridge, there's not a grant on that one.
In any ballpark on that?
I don't know.
$2 million?
About $2 million, okay.
Okay. Anything else for staff?
Something just between us, if we're gonna jump out to that far to 840, and we know that there's more stuff that's gonna be popping up between here and 840, just from the plant's perspective, to be thinking ahead, that infill is probably gonna happen a lot faster than anybody anticipates.
Good.
And the other side of 840.
There's no doubt that once sewer's out there, development will
Exactly.
come. There's no doubt.
If you build it, they will come.
Can you explain the rules around the Murfreesboro growth boundary that's identified to the southeast?
Yes.
Obviously, we would never annex anything in that growth boundary, is that correct?
We could not.
And would they ever annex anything outside of that growth boundary?
Yeah, that boundary is roughly right here. As far as it affects these tracks. Murfreesboro has indicated that they're not looking to annex this area at all, even though it is in their urban growth boundary. That's what at least what the most recent discussions we've had with them. We cannot annex that area as it stands currently. There is a process to amend the urban growth boundary, that if we ever wanted to go down that road, but at this time, we could not annex it, but Murfreesboro has not indicated that they are looking to annex it either.
Okay.
Since this property's pretty much right up against the county line, where is the Panantoni property that is also related?
It's in between.
So it's that gap in between.
It's this area here.
So the other developer that we were discussing that had mentioned helping with the sewer, that's the area they want to develop. So to your point, that infill, there's already a discussion and a developer looking to do that area.
And the third developer that's talked to us has bought some property on the west side of 840 at that same interchange on the west side.
I think the positive to this is they're not looking at least these developers aren't looking at high-density developments, homes, condos, so.
It's
not-
mostly industrial.
Not high sewer users, but getting the sewer out there will definitely open up other properties for that.
And to this point, as far as, looking at it from an industrial and some commercial development, it's entirely, I'm trying to think of the word, it's expected, and it would mirror what we've seen as far as industrial commercial developments on interstate roads such as this.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a land use plan perspective, there's not really any issues here.
Yeah.
It's really more, how do we annex it
service it?
and provide the services
Yeah.
to it, right?
Okay.
And what exactly is going to be required to figure out the property line issues to the center of that right parcel there, the triangle that we can't figure out who owns it?
Yeah,
right?
that's really just gonna have to be, again, either an action by the state legislature or some sort of research that we do internally here, and discussions, again, to find out what the best way to treat that is. And it's really not our issue unless we take an annexation out there. It's really a county, Wilson County, Rutherford County issue. But it becomes our issue if we want to annex.
This is all in our urban growth boundary there, that what's being proposed is, right?
Correct.
And so.
Other than
That
little,
little
what the
sliver.
actual boundary
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
exactly, yeah.
So to Matt's question, I mean, nobody can really come in and move us out either, right? So everybody,
Yeah, workers'
everybody has their
comp,
own. At some point, this will grow, at some point it'll come, whether that's now or later, at some point, something will take place out that way. And Smyrna will be the one managing it at that point. My question, we don't have an agreement currently. And if I heard you right, you would want that before we entered in any kind of, I think you would recommend denial until that was done, would you not?
Yeah, that's what we would certainly, I recommend that you would, that we annex this property till we can really nail down that agreement, right? Because that's obviously a big portion, a big cog in the wheel.
And to me, that says it all, really.
Do they have a will serve for CUD?
I believe they do have a will serve CUD, yes.
Okay.
With a list of things that they have to do as far as improvements to get the fire flow and adequate.
If they
flow.
do this, they will get water.
Right.
Check.
Right.
Okay, anything else for staff? Okay, if there's someone from Hillwood that would like to come forward, if you could give us your name and address, I'm going to allow you've heard some of the issues that we've spoken about tonight, and you may have some other items, and I'm sure we have some questions for you.
Happy to do it. Paul Ranke with Hillwood, 6410 Poplar Avenue, Memphis, Tennessee. Appreciate y'all's time tonight. Thank you for allowing me to be here. A lot of questions, a lot of things to sort through. I'm going to do my best to try and boil that down as succinctly as possible so I don't keep you long. I guess first and foremost, Hillwood is not new to Smyrna. If anybody's familiar with the 4 buildings over by the airport that we refer to as Airport Business Park, that was about 1.8 million square feet that was completed roughly 3 years ago now. Very successful, fully leased, great partnership with Smyrna. We're excited to be back and do another development with Smyrna. On the zoning front of things, and land use side of things, like Kevin mentioned, we really were intentional about trying to keep that as simple as possible, right? And just preserve all of the, what is it, Kevin, C2, I'm gonna get my nomenclatures mixed up.
C2 and I2.
C2 and I2 zoning bulk regulations. The only deviation from that, like Kevin mentioned, was that we're asking for a little taller building heights. I think 50 feet is what's currently allowed in I2 today. With the trend in our markets and what tenants are expecting of us anymore these days, and for us to be marketable for this site, the 60 feet is what we're asking for. And I can bore you guys with a bunch of details about why that is for sprinkler heights and all sorts of racking and all that sort of good stuff, but I won't get into that unless you have questions about it. On the utility front, that's definitely been the primary source of this conversation. We've been in many conversations now with staff, Dave's office, the utility providers, et cetera, engineers. We have a good understanding of what it's going to take to get utilities to service these properties. We are committed to playing our part in that. We're in the process right now of drafting agreements that we can share with Jeff's office and Dave so that we can start negotiating and executing those documents. It'll be a little bit of time, of course, to work through that, but our commitment to you is that we will play our role in that. And if it's covering the cost to get it from Jefferson Pike up to Falls Creek for sewer, we're in. We're committed, right? So I want to make sure you guys understand our level of commitment here to seeing this project through and help carry our portion of the cost here, our appropriate portion of the cost with this. On the annexation boundary line topic, so We have a couple of different independent surveyors who have all confirmed the location of where they say the county lines are, and it's, as Kevin indicated, the red lines seems to be the consistent theme there. But we understand there's a process, right, to formally memorialize that. If it calms your concerns at all, we're happy to take a condition of approval tonight that the annexation line follow the current county lines today while we sort through resolving and updating the county lines, because the truth of the matter is, in all likelihood, we're gonna develop west to east, right? Because that's where the utilities are coming, right? If they're coming up Mona Road, it's gonna impact the western tracks first, and so that's likely where we'll start development. If the greater Nashville market trends kind of hold, we probably do maybe 1 to 2 buildings every 12 to 24 months, somewhere in that range. So we're 10 years before we're getting to the eastern tracks, right? So there's a lot of runway there, which allows the town a lot of time, of course, for all the services that you guys mentioned earlier, fire and police and so forth. But it also gives us the time to sort through the county line discrepancy where we can come back to you at that point, once that's resolved, to finish the annexation for those awkward little triangular pieces up there. So we're happy that if that's a condition for tonight's approval, we're good with that. The utilities discussion, my request to this group is that also be a condition of approval tonight, that we sort through all of those utility agreements and memorialize those with the town before coming to town council. Right? Our intent is not to come to town council and formalize annexation until we have all the utility details figured out with the town, which means executing agreements, deciding who's paying for what, timing, and all the details. So we are fine if that alleviates a little bit of concern on your ends as well. The owner's rep is here as well, landowner's rep is here as well. They can speak to the desire here from their standpoint, but also kind of speak to their experience with Hillwood as well. I'm here to answer any more questions you guys have. I'm sure you got plenty.
I've got 2 questions, and one's for you, Paul, and the other's
Yes,
really
sir.
for Jeff. So the first one is, Jeff, kind of what Paul was just laying out. First, I met with Paul a couple of times. We've talked about this several times, and I appreciate the effort you put in to try to get us a product that works. So I know you've done a lot of work there, and I do appreciate it. That being said, we still got a long way to go, right? So, Jeff, one of the comments he made was that he didn't want to bring anything to council until he had that agreement in place. How does that process work? Normally, we pass it here, it goes to council next meeting. If it's 6 months for them to finalize an agreement.
Or longer.
What happens after, let's assume for a second, he got a conditional approve it tonight. What happens to this until then? And what if the agreement never finalizes? What happens?
That's right. So first, I will say, as it applies to timeline, I do not recommend getting outside of the way that we, Planning Commission, the very next council meeting is your first reading. The following one is your second. Now, there have been times we've delayed it 1 month for another second reading, but we've already had the first immediately after Planning Commission. The issue that I would have with you recommending specifically a plan of services that go along with this is because we don't have the detail that we would need, and then we have an annexation without a plan of where and timeline of when those may be estimated to be, who's going to pay for it. Now we have land that's annexed and we don't have utilities there because Lord knows, Hillwood's been great to deal with, but we know what ambiguity can get us. And so we don't want to wind up in a situation where there's a complaint that we've not been able to follow through on our plan of services, because then we would be restricted from annexing any further by a court if we don't follow through on what we have already promised. And so,
to make that for those of us that aren't an attorney, essentially agreeing to a plan of services that we don't really have a service plan for could jeopardize our opportunity to annex or provide services for others.
yeah.
Paul, the other question I had for you was, you had mentioned, and we've talked about this a little bit, the sewer plan, based on the numbers and whether we think the numbers are high or low or whatever, let's just assume they're accurate. So you guys are pretty much working on an agreement on the $10 million sewer expansion. What about the additional cost that the town's gonna have to incur related to road improvements, fire, police? Is that part of your discussion at all, or are you pretty much just focused on the utility, specifically the sewer?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. So, as far as road improvements go, certainly any road improvements that are dictated by us or are recommended by us through our traffic studies, we'll take care of. And I would imagine that some of that will include Mona Road, right, as we start to get into those traffic studies, and possibly some stuff on Bill France. But
Paul, excuse me, just real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt. Is that your traffic engineer, or is that a third
correct.
party?
That'll be our traffic engineer. So
Okay.
again, I'm thinking forward, fast forwarding to when we're come to you for plating and site plan approval. Those will be accompanied by traffic studies, which will give us recommendations on any required road improvements related to the traffic as part of our project.
And I'm just asking out loud, is there a conflict there, having your own engineer recommend what you do or don't do to our roads?
So that's common how that process goes. So what we'll do is we'll have an initial scoping call with the town's engineer and our traffic engineer and our civil engineer. We'll all have a scoping call to all agree on what areas that we need to study. Then we'll run our traffic counts. They'll do their report and analysis. We'll work hand in hand.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, by the way, but I'll let you finish answering, Steve. As soon as I heard it, I wanted to ask the questions.
Sure, no problem. Good question. Sorry, what was the rest of it?
Cost related to roads.
Oh, yes.
The other
And fire
costs
and
that
police.
Kevin laid out, other than the $10 million sewer. basically.
Right, so I think you mentioned fire and police as well. So we've got 820 acres here to work with, so if it helps the town for us to dedicate 2 or 5 acres of that for a future station, we're more than happy to do that, discuss that with you guys, and work with Kevin and his team on that. Placement of that can work however we need to there, but I wanted you to know that we're partners in this with you guys, and we understand that growth has growing pains, and we're here to help as much as we can with that.
Question for you, Paul. Thank you for
Yes, sir.
for your words. You spoke earlier of your level of commitment. It sounds like it's pretty high to the project. As it contains to the zone of contention, right, the triangle up there, in a hypothetical scenario where there never comes to fruition,
Yeah.
does your level of commitment to the project remain the same?
I am 100% committed that we can get that worked out. Yeah. I appreciate that question, though, because it goes to the larger concern from our standpoint. I'll be transparent with everybody here, right? There's a big financial investment, of course, on Hillwood's part for this project, which you've seen some of the economic numbers on that. It's a big financial investment for Smyrna, for the annexation and taking on services. We recognize all that. So for us, in order for us to feel confident to purchase all this land and make this financial commitment, we want to feel a sense of confidence from Smyrna that there's a path forward here, right? And in our opinion, a positive recommendation from Planning Commission is a great first step towards that. Like I'm going to repeat what I said earlier, we have no desire to come to town council to formalize anything until all these details are worked out. But receiving a positive recommendation tonight does instill confidence in us that Smyrna sees a path forward for us on this.
You heard from our council up here about doing that process differently. How do you feel about that? It's not something we normally do, right? So
Completely understand. It's going to get me outside of my lane because I'm not sure I'm familiar with all the ins and outs there. But I do think there's a difference in verbiage when we say if something is deferred versus tabled, right? So deferred means that, I think, Jeff, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that goes to the very next meeting, and tabled is just indefinite, an indefinite postponement until all things are figured out and everybody's
Depending
comfortable.
on how you word it, I think what their question is though, regardless of the motion that gets us there, our normal process is planning, because it is a formality, and for a reason, that when they're making this recommendation going to the council, that they've got all this bundle of information that they've approved and are recommending or not recommending to the council. And so that is why we want to have what council's going to consider. The planning commission has had the full ability to review that.
So, let me ask another question on this. I've never seen this before, but it just kind of hit me. So, I think we've all said that the land use for this is okay. The plat itself isn't really the concern, it's the services. We have really two options. We have two items we're voting on, the plan of services and the annexation. What happens if you approve the annexation but don't approve the plan of services?
Then you cannot have the annexation.
Okay, I didn't know if it was like you could approve the plat, but then when they get plan of services worked out, they could come back for that piece.
They're married to one another.
I didn't know, okay, so you can't do one without the other. You can't separate those, okay.
State law requires, we can't annex anything without having a plan of services that goes with it. So. you have
It's
to-
just kind of interesting, we have to vote on it twice, then what's the point, right?
And my only issue, I can't speak for Mr. Santucci or Kevin and staff of planning on the other issues with this, but the only one that I'm really speaking to is just the ambiguity of not having a sewer agreement. That's really all that I'm discussing at this point.
There are other players involved in this, as I recall, right? So to hear your commitment tonight, you're saying we're in, we're going to do this. We don't have that commitment from any of the other people yet. There's no agreement yet. And so that's where I'm having a little heartburn about it, to be honest with you.
Well, not just that, we met with them a year and a half ago, and they were telling us they had the same commitment you're saying right now, but then the agreement has never materialized. And so that's my only concern, and I believe everything you're telling me.
Yep.
But I also know that what they've told me, and I believe what they told me, but nothing's actually materialized in a year and a half. So I think their intentions are still probably good, but the market maybe has changed, maybe their investments have changed. I don't know what's happened, but it seems like they've slow walked a little bit more than we were expecting them to.
And Paul, I'll speak to Hillwood. You have been good partners, you know. I don't know who you have to appease behind the scenes here, but we can sit up here with confidence and say that you've done what you're supposed to do out at the airport property there. You did a good job. You're a good business partner out that way. So with a lot of moving parts here, some of the feedback you've heard, I think, sort of speaks to some of the concerns still that we might have. But I can say this from a land use plan, and if services are worked out, I mean, if that helps you guys in some way to go back to the people you need to talk to, whether this board decides to vote for or against it, I think that at least gives you some sort of confidence going forward that we're just waiting for everybody to do their deal kind of thing, you know? That's not what you want to hear.
Right.
But that's kind of where I hear the conversation going. Real quick, I'm just going to touch on this. This is totally off the thing, but you wanted a 60-foot, 10-foot variance on your building heights too. Kevin, is that something that would come along with all the approval process anyway?
Well, this would basically be a PUD. It would be a part of like their PUD, so it would not have to be a BZA review of a height variance is
Okay.
what that eliminates, and it would be something to be a condition of their PUD approval.
I took a note here to ask you to kind of look into that and
Yeah,
see.
that's why I asked the question.
Is it something we need to look at in
Yeah.
our I-2 zone in general? Because we've had this come up a couple of times. And specifically, I think we had a height.
Especially with the
variance.
racking and things that Paul's talked about. I know he didn't want to get into all that, but
I think we had the same thing come up for the
that's
mini
going to be
stores
the
right
way
down the
to
road.
go probably moving forward with any kind of proposal. So it's probably worth a look. That's why I wanted to ask the question.
Yeah, I took the same note.
If I may, and it just, sorry, excuse my ignorance, just want to understand the process here. If there is a motion to deny as opposed to a motion to defer.
That's correct.
Okay, my preference would be the deferral. A motion to deny typically carries a bad stigma and connotation to it.
You could,
So-
yeah, and I
You're the
think
applicant,
you've
so you
heard
can
the.
request that.
Yeah, you've heard
I
what's
would-
going on up here.
Yeah, I would-
And you could certainly request a deferral, and we could vote
We have to
on
vote
that.
on that request.
That would be my request at this time.
Okay.
What,
What timeframe?
To-
I was
to-
gonna say,
and-
what
and-
kind
and
of
to-
timeframe
And
would-
to allow, primarily, obviously, to allow us time to finish
The
the
agreement.
utility agreement discussions.
yeah, so
Right.
is
Yeah.
Well,
60
it's more than
days?
the utility agreement, I think. It's the, we have the technical part of it, boundaries, but we also have the financial part of it. That's the utilities, that's fire, that's roads. So I think we're looking for clarity on.
And I think that's who
the
he has
whole
to meet
thing.
with and talk to,
Yeah.
part of the agreement. Dave, you had something you wanted to chime in about? Name and address, please. No, I'm just kidding.
Miami?
Oh, no. I want to first say that working with Paul and his team has been very, very good. I feel really good about it. I also feel really good about the discussions that I've had with the other developers in the area as well. But I want to be very clear about the conversations that I've had with them to this commission, so you're aware. From my perspective, there is enough development opportunity in this area to where getting the sewer lines and the gas lines out there should be the responsibility of the developers. And I made that very clear to all three of them. Okay? The other part that we've talked about is the needing to, at some point, bring, we're going to, as Kevin mentioned, we're going to have to bring out a fire station there somewhere. And although we have not come to any kind of agreement, Mr. Ranke has, as he told you tonight, has said that that's something I believe that we can work through. Between 2 and 5 acres is where we need to be for that type of facility. And then the rest of it really is things that we would likely see through impact fees, right? So the rest of the public safety impacts that we would see and those sorts of things. So I just wanted to be very clear about the conversations that I had with this commission in this setting and having this opportunity so that as you make your motion, whatever that may be, you're clear on what kind of conversations I'll be having thereafter.
Thanks, Dave.
And I think, Paul, that probably offers some comfort to you, hearing that from the town manager.
Dave's been great to work with. I
Yeah.
have
Yeah, I
a ton of confidence in Dave.
For me personally, I can't speak for everybody else, an agreement on the sewer and the gas, where that's worked out between you and the other developers and the town's got a signed agreement. The conversation about the fire department location, and then, of course, the caveats related to road improvements that may be required because of a traffic study. Those are all things that I think would give me more comfort if those were all in place at this point. That being, those things off the table, I don't have any issue with the design, the development, the plat, the PUD in general, right? But those things are still outstanding, and all the faith in the world they'll get done, but I don't know how fast.
So Steve, in the spirit of keeping business moving along, I mean, we approve things with contingencies quite often up here. What's the harm in approving this to move it forward with contingencies based on those utility agreements and those land use agreements?
So I learned a very valuable lesson about a year ago. There was a development out off Lee Road where there was a developer and a homeowner, landowner, standing in front of us who had every intentions of agreeing on an agreement. They both were saying the right things. Everybody was happy. They left shaking hands, might have went to dinner. I don't know. That agreement has still not gotten in place. There's been threats of lawsuits. They've tried to pull me in multiple times. And so the ambiguity, you can't make two parties agree to anything. So if we made a requirement of an agreement, we can't force that. And so that's why I will never make that motion again, where there's gonna be, approved with the agreement, because you can't force an agreement by two parties.
Fair enough.
Well,
So
and
I learned a hard lesson.
let me add this to that, from my perspective. With what Steve said, I think we have a higher level of complexity, a lot higher in cost. We've got a lot that the stakeholders have to come together and agree upon to go forward with a project of this magnitude. And again, I think this is totally appropriate for this area, and this is what this area is made to do. I just think that, you know, as far as nailing down a plan of services, we've got to do that in order to move forward.
To
with-
annex it.
To annex it, yeah. And so that's kind of where I fall. Now, based on that, you know, if you were asking me, and of course I can't make a motion, but I'm all in favor of looking at a deferment here, just because it seems like all the parties, you know, are moving forward and have good intent to do so. But Steve, to your point, it's not intent necessarily, it's what gets inked that we look at as a planning commission so that we can make a recommendation to the council.
And to that point, to answer something that Matt brought up about contingencies, we don't normally do anything that doesn't go to the council the next meeting. So whether we have any contingencies in those approvals or not, they go next month, right? So that's another concern, is messing up the process a little bit, so.
So Paul, you said you would be open to deferment. How much time? 30, 60,
Good
90?
question. I'm going to answer that with a question if I maybe can get some
Somebody-
guidance
I'm gonna
on
let
that.
Jeff
Somebody
weigh
was
in
just
on
fixing
this.
to say
I have a
something.
recommendation on that. Don't have to take it, sometimes people don't. But is, because for Mr. Reiki, time is of the essence, obviously, is I don't see any harm if you said, you know, not 30 days, till the next planning commission. If it's not done, then Mr. Reiki can say, you know, I would ask for another deferral, and he wouldn't even have to be here for that if he needed it. But that way,
As soon as he's
if we
ready.
did get something
he'll-
done, he wouldn't be
Yes.
waiting an extra 30, 45 days if he didn't need it.
It's brought up
That
on
was
the
gonna be my
agenda each
question.
month
Yeah.
that
And,
way.
Okay.
and we have done that,
Yes.
you know, and
And that allows you the options, Paul, that
I was
that
gonna
gives you
say,
the
he's
option.
he's very well versed on that because he was doing it before. So
That was on our agenda for about a year.
At risk of being another deferral item, you know, right? Well, this will be a fresh one.
yeah, let's, I'll entertain a motion unless there's any further discussion.
I'll make the motion to defer until the next meeting and based on staff comments and discussions.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to defer until the next planning commission meeting. Any further discussion? All in favor of this deferment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is deferred. Okay.
Number one's done.
Catherine, count me on this next one as abstaining, please.
And go ahead and call in some pizza. Okay, so our next item under annexation zoning and plan of service request is Weekly Homes LLC, 6304 Lee Road, annexation in R1 zoning.
This is an annexation request on Lee Road. This is about just over 6 acres of property. It's currently zoned RM in Rutherford County. Surrounding zoning is also RM in Rutherford County, and as well as PRD in town, which are the Hidden Springs, Buckingham Hills, and Olive Branch Estates, PRDs. Land use plan would support medium-density, single-family residential in this area. The major thoroughfare plan does designate Lee Road as a selector. This is a portion of, or this is a piece of property that was a former portion of a larger tract to the north there, which has been annexed already. Was zoned PRD as a part of, it was future phase 3 of the Hidden Springs development. The seller of the property was going to kind of retain this tract and build a single house on it. They did not request annexation when the rest of the property was annexed. And so now they wish to build one house on that property, on that 6 acres. And so, but they do want to be on the town sewer system. And so they have requested annexation in order to be able to do that, to build their house on their 6 acres. So, that's basically the gist of the request. They are here and can certainly answer any questions that you all may have as well.
So we have a one-home subdivision on 6 acres.
That's correct.
Sound pretty good, doesn't it, Ken?
I like the sound of that.
Okay.
Not many complaints about that.
questions for staff on this?
Kevin, when this was originally 17 or 27, I noticed 7 was in there somewhere when it was originally brought forward.
I'm sorry.
The original plat,
Oh, the original plat for Hidden Springs altogether, yeah, is this track and then these two. Altogether, that's about 150 homes, I think.
Yeah.
All 3 phases together. The last phase, I think, had like 49 in it. That would be kind of just to that north of this track.
and to Steve's earlier comment about learning from the past, is this close to that
Oh,
particular
I'm sorry.
property?
Yeah. That's on the other side.
Yeah.
The property, that's over here.
Okay, all right.
The tracks that are, they're still remaining in the county, and the developer is working through that with them, and both sides seem to be moving forward pretty well, every indication we're getting at least, to come to a resolution of that issue.
Okay, anything else? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve
With staff
with
comments?
staff comments, yes.
Can I hear a second?
Second, yeah.
Second, Matt, okay. I have a motion to approve with staff comments and a
This would
second.
include, just for clarification, this does include the plan of services in addition to the annexation and zoning.
Yes, right, Steve?
Yes.
That's what I thought you meant. Okay, a motion to approve the annexation, R1 zoning, and plan of services request. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is approved. We are now on to rezoning requests. The first is Eric Olson, 570 Rock Springs Road, owner, developer, Harts Branch LLC, Carol Turner Grogan.
Yeah, this is a rezoning request for about 1.28 acres of property, currently zoned R3, has been requested to be rezoned to PRD. This would be, sorry, it's R4, not R3, currently zoned R4. The rezoning request would be to essentially expand the Harts Branch PRD, which does surround it to the rear and on both sides. And so this would be just an expansion of that. So that surrounding zoning is R3, R4, and PRD, which is, again, that Harts Branch Village PRD. Land use plan would support mixed residential development in this area. Major thoroughfare plan does designate Rock Springs Road as a collector, so development of this property would require adequate right-of-way dedication for that street. This request is PRD, again, it's just to add this to the existing PRD adjacent to it. It would add 13 additional townhomes to the project. All requirements of the existing approved PRD would apply, so house size, house materials, all those things, which those are all, they did resubmit those as well. The existing approved PRD was for 169 townhomes on 22.19 acres. It's about 7.62 per acre. The site plan was actually only 167 instead of 169, which the actual developed density is about 7.53. So these 13 additional townhomes would bring the total overall density would be 7.67. This particular piece would have a little bit higher density, about 10.16 on that 1.28 acres. It would raise the overall density to 180 on 23.47, which is about 7.67 per acre. So a little bit, slight increase of about 0.05 per acre. We did have a request, and they did submit an auto turn, kind of, there's going to be a hammerhead kind of on this area. I think maybe the next, yeah, this one shows it a little bit better, a little bit zoomed in. Again, but basically, they're just extending an existing private road into the track and then having townhomes on either side of it. There would not be another connection to Rock Springs Road. It would just be an internal dead-end street there. There's 2 existing entrances into the development already at Rock Springs Road. So I think that's all that I've got. The developers are here if you have any questions.
With this being a dead-end road, is there going to be any issue getting fire trucks down this road and turned around?
Yeah, that's why we had asked for that auto turn, and the dimensions and all that. I don't know if the fire department's had a chance to review that yet. It does appear there would not be an issue there. It would come from the other internal streets that are already in existence there.
And since it's dead ending right here, I know we had talked about townhomes or any home facing a main road like Gwen Farms, where we were rotating those exteriors so that you
Yeah.
wouldn't see a side or a back. Is that correct? Or,
That is something we've talked about on the new PRD requirements. They're really more so to the single family, but certainly that was something that was part of our new PRD requirements. We looked at this one as an expansion of the existing one, and they're really wanting to make it kind of consistent with what they've already developed, 167 units they've already built. That is showing something that obviously they might want to address as well, but that you could consider, certainly.
Okay, I'm going to recognize you, and if you'll give us your name and address, please.
Eric Olson, Anderson Delk, Epps Associates, 618 Grasshopper Park Drive, Nashville. If I heard right, you were talking about fronting those units on Rocky Fork Road. I think one of the main issues is we're actually having to fill that sidewalk. There's a bit of a swale or ditch behind that sidewalk, just not, the grades really don't work to do that. Plus the size of that area, we got the existing detention pond there to the left of those units. So it's just a little bit too tight to fit that how you like it.
okay. So we've been getting a lot of grief about too many units in a small area.
Yes.
And I know, we're trying to say it's a part of this development behind it, but truly it's not, because it wasn't a portion of it when it was approved, right? So I feel like we're getting in a dangerous area when we put a maximum density when we've just went through the process of trying to not do that.
Well, I know when we did the original master plan, this was before we did the boundary, so the actual density was 7.7, so it's actually slightly less than the original master plan, because we know we lost the 2 units. So the density will be consistent. We're going from 7.7 to, I think, 7.6.
Other questions?
If this is to look like an extension of the existing, why not do the quantity the same as the existing?
Yeah, that was a short stub road, and we're just going to extend that out, keep it a dead end with the turnaround there at the end.
No, I'm talking about the density of the quantity of homes on this piece of property.
The condos that we're talking, kind of hard hearing.
The new proposed quantity of homes
It'll be the same type of units as.
has that in the back?
Yes, it's basically just, we're adding to it. It'll be the same development, same units, same everything.
Okay.
Same
I
HOA.
misunderstood. Okay.
Actually, part of the rear of this property was actually sold to create the Harts Branch development. So this, and the homeowner just decided to sell the whole thing. That's kind of what happened.
So Kevin, you were concerned about the facade on the side facing Rock Springs to stay the same as the existing development, not to update to our current standards?
That's just how I was looking at it, that it's going to be completely surrounded by this existing development, that it might look a little out of place, I guess. I understand exactly what everyone's talking about as well, but that's kind of how I was looking at it. It's not just next to that existing development, it's actually it's a part of it. It's the only way you're going to get to those units is to go through those developments, and existing developments, so.
Kevin, what did we do on driveways in the existing development?
This matches what we required.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry?
It matches what's in that existing
And
development.
is that because we have the auxiliary parking that's
There is some
shown there?
additional parking on the, they're adding some, the kind of like the auxiliary to parking, but the driveway widths and depths match what's in that existing development as well.
Looks like on this cutout, that's 20 feet, is that right?
Right. It's essentially 2 in the driveway.
I'm saying it matches.
Yeah, but it, yeah. And then you have the extra 4 or 5 or whatever it's on, or 6, whatever it is at the end. 5.
Can you, what was involved in the landscaping plan for the original approved ERD? And I ask because these units are going to be particularly close to the road. Is there anything we should be considerate of or do something different in lieu of having those units front-facing?
I know we have the perimeter landscaping, but we'll submit a landscaping plan with the final site plan, so it'll be under review at that time.
Yeah, we don't have a landscaping plan for it, specific landscaping plan yet for this. I know there was some, we had one before when the site plans came in.
Would that include some sort of sightline trees from Rock Springs?
We'll have buffers, and then we'll probably provide a couple along the road as well to make it look nice. I think there's a 15-foot perimeter landscape buffer C. So I think that's consistent with the
Yeah,
rest of the
it's,
yard.
look right up here, Ken.
Yeah, there is a 15-foot against
See
those
that type C up
existing,
there?
existing residences, there
Gotcha.
is.
Yeah, that kind of explains what we're
Where's
talking
the type C?
about. It's.
Yeah, it's a type C buffer.
Look there on your plan. Kevin, previously, when we've had development that's been on the books for a while, or even a short, maybe even a shorter period of time, I seem to recall that we, to make things consistent, we've brought things in so that we do have a consistent look for the entire project.
That's what we've done in the past, yeah.
I mean, commercial, residential,
Right.
we've done that.
Right, and that's kind of how I looked at this one. It's a small addition to the existing development. It's
13 units.
to be a consistent look for the whole development. It makes
Yeah.
sense to me.
Did I understand this is where the owner of the original project, this is where.
Was part, there was.
Part of
more-
their
there was-
home?
There was more than one track as part of that original development,
Mhm.
and then they bought a portion of this track as a part of the original development. And then
Okay.
this would just be the rest of it, yeah.
I can't remember the development behind it. Is most of those 2-car garages or 1-car garage? Because I know these are 1-car
They're all
garages.
1-car garage, and there's some
Okay.
surface parking as well, and
Yeah,
then
there's,
parking station.
Okay.
there's a mix of 1s and 2s. This one's got some, I think 2 or 3 of these units do have 2-car garages. There's a mix of 1s and 2s in the existing development. I think it's largely 1, some 2.
Anything else for Eric? Thank you, sir. I'm not hearing any other questions. Okay, anything else for staff? Any further discussion? I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff comments.
A motion to approve with staff comments from Matt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Good, Captain. Okay, the motion is approved. Okay, our next item is we're on to actually final class, re-subdivision of lot 137A, Sagefield subdivision, section 5D, 139 Neal Avenue, owner developer Proverbs Build Homes LLC.
Yeah, this is a tract of land that was annexed a few months ago. It was an existing parcel within the county subdivision. And they, so now they have submitted their plat. Several staff comments. It is an R3 zone, 3 lots are proposed. There is an existing home on the property. that would be remaining, and then 2 additional lots. Several staff comments that are standard comments, really 1 through 7, all those would remain. Comment 8's relative, pretty much a standard comment as well, just to add those signatures prior to submittal for recording. There is an existing, they're showing an existing sewer line to the rear of these parcels, and that they would be attaching to. We just asked them to provide verification of that easement, that they can actually tie onto those lines, to that line. That's comment number 9, so that would need to remain. And then they're showing a distance to the nearest hydrant, but it's a hydrant that's on the industrial property to the east. And so we asked, it really needs to be the nearest hydrant on Neal Avenue. So that's what we need, where we need to have that labeled and shown. So we need to keep comment 10. Comment number 11 has been addressed, kind of renumbering some of the new lots. Comment 12, the original plat, they had not contacted CUD, and they have done that now. That can be taken care of. The CUD's looked at those plans, and that signature has been added, or the certification's been added. So comment 12 can be removed. Comment 13 was just a change in the public waste certification from Director of Public Works to Town Engineer. That's been done. And then they had 2 different addresses were shown for the property owner. That's been, so now there's consistent. It's shown in 2 places, but it has shown consistently now, so that can be removed as well. So really, with comments 1 through 10, staff would recommend approval.
Questions to 7 concerning this re-subdivision request?
I can't remember from this when it came up before that the petitioner was suggesting they were only going to build 1 additional house.
That's kind of what they had indicated. There's enough road frontage for 3, so they're meeting the zoning ordinance with regards to lot size and road frontage. So they're within the ordinance to divide it into 3 lots. So that is what they did indicate. They were looking at only building 1 additional house at the time it was annexed, yes.
Kevin, you said that you wanted them to show the fire hydrant locations over on Neal. Are those within the required distance, or do we know yet?
We don't know that for sure. We think I think we did look at it. I think there is one kind of at that First Street cross section going north on Neal that I do think would be okay, but they need to show that on the drawings to be sure.
So your comments to show it on the drawings, does that need to say, and they would have to add if it's not in requirement?
If it's not there, they would have to add one. Yeah. But we think it's okay, but yeah, we certainly, if we want to add that, amend that comment to add an additional hydrant if necessary on Neal Avenue. And there may be one within the adjacent development to the south is within the town, was developed in the town, Belmont. There may be one there as well. I don't know exactly where the nearest hydrant is, coming north towards this area as well, so.
Okay.
Add additional if necessary.
Does this meet our new requirements in terms of consistency with adjacent housing?
This is not a PRD. This is R3 zoning. We don't have, it's just
Does it
10,000 square foot lot
meet the
minimum.
spirit of that?
It certainly meets the spirit in the sense of
It's
they're gonna
consistent
face-
with surrounding
It's
zoning.
consistent with the surrounding zoning. It's going to, they're going to face the main road, all that, yes. As far as what they're going to look like and those kind of things, it's not required because it's an R3 zoning, not a PRD.
Other questions or comments?
My only concern is on Lot C, that's a small lot that I predict the future will be a tiny home put on that, which wouldn't be in keeping with the rest of the neighborhood.
Is that an R3 size lot?
I mean, it's 10,000 square feet.
So it meets the zone.
Well, it's minimum 10,000, let me see. It's 11,281.
Oh, there you go.
It's barely makes it.
Other questions or comments?
It's bigger than my lot.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve staff comment.
I have a motion to approve staff
Second.
comments and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is approved. We are now on to our next final plat, Pottsview subdivision, 6016 Eugene Drive, owner, developer, Four Star USA Real Estate Group, Inc.
So this is the final plat for the Pottsview development. It's off of Eugene Drive, north of the existing Potts Crossing development. It's 39 lots in an R1 zone. This is the final plat. We had a few standard comments, really 1 through 4. I will point out comment 5. This is really an informational comment for them, just so that I think they're aware of it, just make sure they're aware of it. The water pressure here is not adequate to meet the minimum fire flow requirements without sprinkling the homes. And so all the homes in this development will be required to have fire sprinklers in them. And they will also all have to be less than 3,600 square feet total under roof, which counts not just the house, but that's the garage, that's the front porch that's covered, anything like that. And that's the fire code requirement. So that's just really, again, an informational comment, but an important one, so. The other 3 comments we had, number 6 regarding the road name, that's been submitted now, we can take that off. And we had a couple of public easements, the pump station that needed to have some labels and dimensions added. Those have all been taken care of and can be removed, so we can remove comments 6 and 7. Comment 8 is a standard comment. So with basically comments 1 through 5 and 8, staff would recommend approval.
And this is R1 zoning consistent with surrounding zoning.
It's actually.
It's actually
somewhat
more-
inconsistent because
Yep,
the surrounding zoning
because
is
it's
R3.
R3, yeah.
It's actually a
I think we had-
lower density zoning than the
We had
surrounding zoning.
2 homes, I believe, in front of, were those R1 lots?
There's actually 3.
That were
are-
R1?
That are R1 lots, yes.
Yeah,
And then just south of that, that existing development was all.
R3, that's right. Okay.
Hey, Kevin, lot 300, what's the accessibility to that?
Lot 300 is basically just a detention area. I think there's actually an easement across the, from the, lot 3, I think it's either 4 or 301. There is an easement.
Oh, there it is, yeah, I see it. Never know.
Yeah, those 3ose 3 lots that have the larger numbers are all just common area, open spaces, which are largely detention ponds in this area.
Kevin, what's the significance of the dotted line across the 35, 24, 25, and 5?
That's just the, if you look on the second page. Dash line is all that is.
Just for now.
Other questions or comments? I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This final plat is approved. Next, under final plats, we have Sullivan subdivision, Lot 1, 114 Hart Street, owner, developer Jerry Windsor and Charlie Odell Windsor.
Yeah, this is a piece of property just located just off of Bel Air Drive. Is where the nearest street to this particular lot is. Property does have Hart Street frontage or access as well, but the overall property. This is about 1 acre on 1 lot. It is owned R1. Again, several standard comments, really 1 through 6, would all remain, standard fire flow requirements, those kind of things. This is one's a little bit different in that basically there's an old right-of-way, it is a public right-of-way. When that Bel Air Drive, that whole area was developed, there was a stub street to the north that was never built for whatever reason back in the 1960s or whenever that was built. And so, but the right-of-way still exists, and so the proposal is to essentially build a private drive through that right-of-way and all the way to across the frontage of the proposed lot. And then the next comment, number 7, would be regarding the water main extension to provide water to that lot, as well as a hydrant on the end of that. And then, that's really comment 7. The comments, the other comments we have are primarily been addressed. Number 8, again, just change the Public Works Director to Town Engineer on the public way certification's been done. The note numbering, and some of the notes had multiple or duplicate numbers, so they take care of that. And then we did ask them to show a cross-section of that drive, just to meet the fire department. Again, that's going to be their access to lot 1 there. And it's essentially the cross-section is very similar to a town street, other than it's not going to have curbing and all that on it, but as far as the thickness of the base and all that. So that's was fine as well. So really, and the comment 10 is really a standard comment. So with 1 through 7 and 10, staff would recommend approval.
Yes, no, go ahead.
Show me as abstaining from this one.
All right. Anyone else, questions or comments concerning this?
The driveway is just going to be a driveway, correct?
It's just going to be a drive. Again, it's going to have the,
So it doesn't have to meet like city street standards or anything?
no, as far as, no, it's just, they are going to have a good base and thickness to it to support a fire apparatus if needed be, and they have the turnaround at the end of it as well, as needed, but they would not, it would not, like, it's not going to be the width and the
Just a
curb
private
curb and
drive.
gutters and all those kind of things, right?
Okay. Other questions or comments?
Make a motion to approve the staff comments.
Have a motion to approve with staff comments. So I have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor of approving this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is approved. So now we're on to site plans. Our first is Kroger Fuel Center, Lee Victory Parkway and Bulldog Drive. Owner developer SEK Smyrna LLC.
This is a site plan for the fuel center on Lot 2 within the Bulldog Drive commercial subdivision. This was the plat that we reviewed last month. The fuel center they're proposing shows 14 fuel pumps with a 225 square foot kiosk building. Access to the site would be proposed via a private road to serve the commercial subdivision, and the lot would have frontage on Lee Victory Parkway but no access to Lee Victory Parkway directly. Square footage of vehicular use area on the site, 27,318 square feet. Square footage of open space landscaping requirement of 2,732 square feet. That would require 3,000, or they are showing for 3,133 square feet. Parking requirement of 3 spaces, they're showing for 23, and that does require 1 handicap parking space, which they are showing for. The landscape plan shows shrubbery along Lee Victory Parkway and the drive aisle access to Kroger. Trees are shown lining Lee Victory Parkway with shrubbery along the paved area circulating the site. Design review, architectural elevations show the building to be finished with a mixture of brick and a fascia material. Pillars within the canopy are shown to be brick, and material percentages, staff has received revised plans since packets went out last week. The material percentages for each wall face of the building that have been submitted now show a mixture of this fascia material with brick and some glazing and glass as well. However, not the entirety of percentage breakdown that staff is looking for has been shown. So I have a staff comment later that will go over that, but mixture of brick, fascia material, and glass for the primary building on site. Standard comments 1 through 7 all remain. Staff comment 1, we asked them to show a more detailed version for this site, particularly for the utilities department. They have done that, so comment 1 can be removed. Comment 2, regarding the comment I just went over about the material percentage for the building. The elevations breakdown they showed didn't include the glass windows as part of the material, which is a primary material. So we do need that to be included as part of the overall percentage for each wall face. So comment 2 is revised to revise the materials to meet A, design review, and B, include glass as part of their primary materials. Comment 3, we asked to show the caliper for the trees along Lee Victory Parkway to be increased to anywhere between 3 and 3.5 inches, which they have done. And then they showed in our variety of shrubs as part of their landscaping detail sheet that were not shown on site. So that has been addressed accordingly as well. So comment 3 has been addressed entirely and can be removed. And number 4 is a utilities department comment, more of a technicality of the backflow and reduced pressure on the site. Detail that utilities department can work through at a later time, but that comment will remain currently. So revised comment, staff comment 2, and then comment 4 will remain, and staff would recommend approval of those comments.
Questions for Mitch concerning this? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the staff comments.
A motion to approve the staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is approved. We are now on to our next site plan, which is Smyrna Soccer Complex, Enid Springs Road East. Owner, developer, SSCP LLC.
So the plans that went before the packet went out, plans have now been revised a little bit. So the photo up there on the screen that you have is a little bit different from what you have in your packet. This is a soccer complex indoor facility. When the packets originally went out, we were looking at about an 18,500 square foot building. The applicant, based on some staff comments, the applicant has reduced this building down to 15,704 square feet. This is like I said, indoor soccer facility, which would be located on Enid Springs Road East, across from Pinto Drive. Inside the building would be 2 soccer fields, concessions, waiting room, and a storage area. Proposed access to the site shows 2 ingress and egress locations onto Enid Springs Road East, with 1 point of access located across from Pinto Drive. The proposed location is situated on 3 parcels, and these parcels will be required to be combined prior to issuance of any building permits. Vehicular use area on the site, 28,262 square feet, which does require 2,826 square feet of landscaping. They're showing for 5,000 square feet. Parking requirement for this facility of this use is 1 space per staff member plus others as determined by the Planning Commission. Due to the variability of nature of these type of indoor activity facilities and what could be in there, that is the reason why there is no requirement per se. Is more up to Planning Commission and staff to determine what would be a feasible requirement for parking based on a certain type of use that is brought before you. So they're proposing tonight 69 spaces. Previously they showed 59 spaces, and then we have expanded that to 69. Handicap parking requirement of 3 spaces, and they're showing for those 3 as well. The landscape plan shows red maples and a variety of shrubbery for streetscaping along Enid Springs Road East. Trees are planted within landscape islands and shrubbery planted around the base of the building. Architectural elevations show the building to be finished on all 4 sides with a mix of brick, glass glazing, and fiber cement board. All four elevations are to have over 75% of the primary materials, which does meet design review requirements. Standard comments 1 through 6 all remain at this time. Staff comments 1 and 2 are more so informational at this time, but comment 1, the retaining walls over 4 feet in height will require a building permit. And then the staff comment 2, since this is 3 separate parcels at this time, they will be required to be combined via a final plat prior to issuance of building permits. Comment 3, regarding a grease trap would need to be installed if food is being prepped inside the building. No food prep will occur inside the building, so that addresses comment number 3, to be removed. Comment 4, the sewer service would need to be shown within a utility easement, which they are now showing, so that comment can be removed. Number 5, the ADA accessible route would need to be provided from the sidewalk to the front of the building. That has been done so accordingly, so that can be removed. Comment 6, the line sizes for the domestic and fire water lines will need to be shown. The applicant has indicated that they will provide this when the plans for the minimum pad elevation are designed, so comment number 6 will remain. 7, to add sewer cleanouts at the edge of the existing sewer main easement. That has done accordingly, so that can be removed. Number 8, if not using the existing driveway cuts, remove and replace with curb and gutter. There are 2 existing driveway cuts that are on Eden Springs Road that are not going to be used, so a note has been added to the plat to that effect, so comment number 8 can be removed. And number 9, the developer's address on the application and plans were different, so there was a discrepancy between the LLC and the personal owner address, so comment 9 has been addressed to staff satisfaction, to be removed. Number 10 is regarding the parking on the site, so staff is concerned that adequate parking is not provided for the project. Based on the assumption based with the size of a traditional soccer field, 11 versus 11, so you figure 44 players at a time can be used. Additional documentation has been provided since packets went out with the size of the fields and additional players per field per se. It would be a 4 versus 4, so we're looking about 8 persons on the field for each team at a time, but also factoring in additional refs and staff and concession workers, etc., in the facility as well. So numbers can grow on top of that, 16 at a time for the players on the field. This would be the employees, coaches, and referees. During time of transition between scheduled games, parking areas for surrounding businesses and properties may become used for people visiting this property. Staff did suggest at the time that a reduction of the storage area would be needed, and that has been done so. This is the revision, like I mentioned, from the time the packets went out last week to the time we have received the revised plans a couple days ago. That storage area has been reduced in size, about 2,800 square feet. And then as a result of that, they have also added 10 additional parking spaces to the eastern side of the site. So staff comments 1, 2, 6, and 10 all remain. Everything else has been addressed. Staff recommendation, staff does recommend deferral due to the need for further discussion regarding the business operations to ascertain adequate on-site parking requirements. Staff doesn't necessarily feel comfortable recommending approval or denial due to need for discussions between the staff and basically the client of the applicant to figure out a business model, peak expected occupancy for the building, just try to get a better visual and idea for what the total on-site parking demands would require at this time. So staff would recommend a deferral just to allow continual discussion between the applicant and staff to figure out parking situation on site.
And I do want to add, this is an odd situation from the standpoint of the parking requirement. That's not something that's typical in our ordinance. It's never come up before because this is the first time this kind of use has really come up as far as an indoor recreation facility like this. And so we've done some research. We're trying to look around what some of our surrounding communities have with something like this. Some have the same requirement we do, so they're in the same boat we are. Some, if we applied their requirements to this use, to this project, this use would have enough parking, and some it would not. So if you look at what Murfreesboro would require, they would require like 150 spaces, which I think probably is overkill. But others, it would meet the requirements. So we kind of, I guess that's part of what we would like to do, is have a little bit more time to be sure we can make a good recommendation to you all. Is this adequate parking or not? Maybe potentially bring an ordinance amendment to you to look at taking care of this issue. As well as just, again, talk, as Mitch said, talk to the developer and get a little bit more information. What's their business plan? How often are they gonna have it set up to where if there's a tournament going on and there's multiple teams, that there's start times are altered or separated out enough, like Smyrna, the Stones River League does with our park, things like that, so that there's not 12 teams of people sitting in the waiting area waiting for their game that's going to take place in a couple hours, or whatever. And so where you have more parking, people just sitting and waiting. Because that is our concern, really, is we don't want to affect those surrounding businesses and property owners, that the parking kind of bleeds over. So that's the reason for our recommendation for deferral.
You know, it's been my experience, now as a grandfather. Actually, I'm not. Mark told me about his. No, I am. But it seems like in sporting events today, there's a lot more extended family where you've got parents, grandparents.
Grandparents will be there too.
You know, and I mean, you have older siblings, you know, and I guess I'm trying to get my mind wrapped around, is this actually where games are being played? Is it solely a practice facility? And it sounded like you mentioned tournaments.
We don't know that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's again part of the reason we requested maybe we have some time
Yeah.
to maybe talk with the developer, what their business plan, business model is.
And I think that's entirely appropriate. I'm not comfortable with the parking, just kind of based upon what I've seen and my experiences.
And I do want to just say that as a staff, we think this is a good idea and a good facility to be added to Smyrna. It's not something about the facility, it's just we want to be sure we take care of that, to take care of the parking issue, so.
Well, I mean, it is entirely, it would be great for the town, but we want to make sure that safety is preserved too.
It's definitely something I would like to see in that area, rather than alternative businesses that might go in there.
Right.
But I would agree with what you're saying, but I would also have questions around, it's still business model. What times are they gonna be doing this? Is this at night and on the weekends when surrounding businesses are not there? Because in this particular area, there's doctor's office, there's town, city hall's right there.
Right.
So there's a lot of areas around there where there wouldn't be a lot of traffic in the evening or nights coming in and out. So if they can handle the parking, they should be able to get in and out okay, if that's when they're doing their business.
Right.
But if it's during the day, or, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, it might be another issue, so.
Kevin, can any comparison be done with this proposed product and what was placed over on Old Nashville Highway?
We did look at that, talking about the gymnastics facility over there, but they have like 110 spaces over there, and it's for about a little over 12,000 square foot building. Obviously a different use, different thing, and at times it's pretty crowded over there, so
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Because to Tim's point.
And we also, and it's again, very different than other, I talked with our parks director about this a little bit too, just to kind of get his input, and he's kind of helped me with some information he's been looking at as well. He suggested, what about the skating rink, just as a, they have a little over 100 spaces over there for about a
It stays full.
26,000 square foot building, so certainly a bigger building than this, so.
Well, it's a different use and a different product. One, I agree with everybody that said, I think it's highly needed. It'd be a great product to have over there. What we want to do is help the developer make sure the product there has plenty of parking for what he wants to build.
Right.
I think it benefits the developer as much as anybody else.
Yeah, one last thing. You said you removed a comment about Grease Trap because they said they weren't going to be doing on-site food preparation.
Correct.
But they still have a concession stand in the plan. So is it just going to be prepackaged
Yeah,
food?
chips and such, yeah.
No,
Okay.
It's like machines, basically.
Good concept, though, I like it.
What's, for seating for the grandparents, Ms. Tim and Lott, and what's, do they need to provide bleachers so the seating can
Yeah.
be regulated?
And I
or is
think,
it-
and again, that's a good question that we would like to talk to. I think one of their original plans, we had some bleacher seating, and I think they took that out when they shrunk the building. But that's certainly something that could, because it's, you have to, there's gonna be basically you're gonna go into a door, and there's gonna be kind of an area on one end of the field or whatever it's gonna be where some people would sit, observe, and then you're gonna have the field, so I think that's a good
It
question
looks a
to
little
ask.
tight for, when you have a big tournament, you have a lot of people in there, seating's gonna be tight. Currently.
We use catwalks.
Okay, Catman.
Could you talk a little bit about the separation between the facility and the Smyrna Care Center? Landscaping, fencing?
I don't think there is. There's not a required buffer. It's all zone commercial. So I don't know.
There's a lot of existing vegetation.
There is
back
a
there
lot of
already,
thick
yes.
vegetation back there, yeah.
Is there a
I don't know
fence,
how much
do
you
we
get
know,
rid of.
or?
I don't know how much you get removed or
I don't think there's a fence proposed.
not. Well, between commercial product, we don't normally, do we?
It is zone commercial. Yeah, Mr. McGuire, the engineer on the project,
Usually
is here.
residential.
There is kind of a, I think there is kind of maybe a little bit of a retaining wall back there. On that part of it. Chris could answer that.
Name and address, please.
Chris McGuire with Huddleston Steel Engineering, 2115 Northwest Broad Street. I want to start by saying I really appreciate working with staff. They've been very open and blunt with me through the process, and we've been able to...
What's blunt mean, Chris?
I hear the real opinion on the parking, and I'm able to adjust, and unfortunately not adjust quickly enough to get it in front of you in paper, but prior to the meeting. As far as the question regarding fencing, we don't have any fencing proposed. There is about a 3 to 4 foot retaining wall in the back, just to provide a nice emergency access / egress through the back, where it's not some type of steep condition. It's got a good, nice flat area. We could have dropped it a little bit quicker, but I felt it was, with there being children potentially in there practicing, that it'd be better to have a little bit more flat area. I did want to point out, I know there needs to be some more discussion on the parking. A lot of times I lose scale on these. Those two fields are 4x4 fields, so the two of those combined are about a quarter of, like, say, a high school soccer field. So these are not large fields by any means. But as far as function goes, I would defer to my client as far as whether there will be tournaments, whether leasing it out for rental during rain days, or how they plan on utilizing that. But I'm happy to answer any question if you don't have any.
So do you know hours of operation, what it could possibly be?
It will be open.
Yeah, why don't you come up and give us your name and address, please, sir?
This is Mina. I live in Antioch. I'm going to be the general contractor and helping the owners building this building. We go play soccer in very similar field in Antioch that just a group of friends go and rent an hour or a couple hours to play there. So could there be tournaments? There could be tournaments. I don't think they would be big, because I'm referring to what Chris was saying. It's just 4v4, so there won't be a lot of people playing at a certain time.
And did I hear you right, it's not a regulation size at all?
It is a regulation size for, I think it's U6, which is a 4x4 game. So like the fields that they do up in Lebanon at the airport, they actually take a regular field and put 8 fields on it for like my young kids.
So
with
your
that-
hours of operation is just gonna be, it could be from 8 to midnight, or? Okay.
You play soccer at midnight?
No, but I know the parking around soccer facilities. It's crazy.
So you don't see this operation then being one where full kid function with all their adults coming in to watch the games? It's not suited for that?
Because of the size of the field, I doubt that would happen. It's usually, these games usually have like 7v7 or more.
So each field will have a maximum occupancy rating to it then? Right?
Each field will operate with 8 kids on a field. So, I mean, you're talking about 16 kids playing at a time. It does not appear to be set up for like a spectator type.
Okay, so I'm
Setting.
not concerned about the kids playing, I'm concerned about the
Yes, sir.
spectators that come, that are gonna be standing on the periphery.
There's not really room, I mean, for bleachers or standing room. I mean, I don't anticipate that it's gonna be able to support that type of venue, but people can get
So
creative.
to make sure that that didn't happen on accident, you would put some sort of maximum occupancy per space, so you don't overload it?
We
So-
could do
so
that, we could do
fire-
that. I mean, we're happy to work with staff on what's the best way to cover them and correctly show what the client is looking for. So I'm by no means trying to push this through today. With a recommender of deferral, we're happy to work with staff.
Is this a child field or is this adult oriented?
I believe it can be, I mean, if like.
This is
say-
not intended for kids, right?
So for high schoolers, they could rent out the field and use it, but high schoolers wouldn't play on these fields like.
This isn't set up for league play for kids. Is that what I'm hearing?
Kids or adults.
Okay.
It
So
could
it's
be
an
either,
either
but to
or.
play a regulation game, only kids could play a regulation game per se here.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, I think staff has made a recommendation to get more information. And I would appreciate probably doing that because I think there's some unanswered questions still. That helps us address parking and everything else when we know those answers.
Yes, sir. We would request a deferral.
Okay.
We just wanted to make sure we heard all of your opinions
Okay.
today. That way we could adjust over the next month.
All right.
Okay, and you heard parking is crucial.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Great product.
And we
though.
anticipated.
No,
But-
and we do like the concept.
Yeah. So with his request, I will make the motion to defer until next month.
Okay. I have a motion to defer until our next meeting next month.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is deferred for 1 month. Okay. Next, we have the Woodmont Amenity Center, Blue Diamond Drive, owner, developer, Meritage Homes of Tennessee, Inc.
This is a amenity center within the Woodmont subdivision of Phase 9. 2 structures are proposed to be constructed, which would include a pool house and amenity building in addition to a pool. Access to the site is shown to be provided off of Blue Diamond Drive. Vehicular use area for the site, 6,942 square feet, which does require 694 square feet of landscaping. Applicant is showing for 3,482 square feet. Parking shown on site is about 21 spaces, and that does require 1 handicap parking space, which they are showing for. Landscape plan shows streetscaping along Blue Diamond Drive with a mixture of oak trees and a variety of shrubbery. Additional trees are shown within the site around the parking lot area, and vegetation is shown lining the amenity space. Architectural elevations show the building to be finished with a mixture of fiber cement, board, siding, and brick. These elevations shown for the amenity buildings do match the buildings shown within the residential development, so it is consistent. Standard comments 1 through 4 remain. Staff note 1, the plat for this area of the subdivision has not been recorded yet, so that will need to be recorded prior to issuance of the building permit. And comment two, the addressing for this area will need to be adjusted on staff's end in order to accommodate for the building and any additional future uses. So comment number three, the ask them to show the total non-impervious space, which is shown. And comment four, regarding connection to the sanitary sewer system to the pool, that has been addressed accordingly as well. So comments 3 and 4 are done, and staff comments 1 and 2 are what remain. And we would recommend approval with those comments.
Questions or comments? I will then entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the staff comments.
A motion to approve with staff comments from Steve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second from Selena. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving this site plan, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The site plan is approved. We're now on to the May bond review report.
Yeah, so jump into that. It's a long one, so I'll try to go as quickly as I can. Cedar Hill, Section 4, Phase 2, this is one we've had a couple years now. They're looking to finish this phase out this summer, so we would recommend a 6-month extension to allow them to finish that up and get the work done. Blakeney, Section 1, Phase 1. I'll go ahead and just hit all of the Blakeneys because they're all, most of them are the same, but they're nearing the end of their maintenance, they're at the end of the maintenance period. They have all requested, all of them that are at the end of the maintenance period, they have requested a 3-month extension because they believe they can finish in 3 more months. So I would recommend 3 months extension on that one. I'll hit those as I go through as well, but Buckingham Place, Section 1, Phase 2. They are working through those, they've told me. Again, they're at the end of the maintenance period. If they're done, we can release it. If they're done by May 16th on this one. Otherwise, we would do a 3-month extension on that because they are trying to finish those up. Oak Meadows, Section 1, that is one they still need to place the topping on. So if they get that done, before expiration, we could go to maintenance. Otherwise, a 6-month extension there. Woodcrest 3 is similar to Buckingham Place, end of the maintenance period. Release if they're done. There's a couple minor issues to clean up, and so hopefully they'll get that one done. Otherwise, extend 3 months. Bricker's Bend, Section 1, Phase 1, that's the one where the developer actually passed away, and we're kind of working through to try to figure out a way to finish that one up. Kind of working with someone else, an adjoining developer. That's still got to be, that hasn't been done yet. We would recommend a 6-month extension on that one. Maybe we can get that finished up, get that going this next 6 months. Sundale 3 is one we've only had for 1 year. They're only about 37% built out, so would recommend a 1-year extension on that one. Burton Farm 6, did send them the punch list. They said they would get back to me on completion. They did not do that. Again, this is the end of the maintenance period on that one, so we could release it done, but otherwise extend 3 months. Wind Farms offsite improvements. Again, kind of, there's a couple issues there to finish up. Again, release it done, if not 3 months. Westover 1B, there's also Westover 1A. They did say they would, I believe they thought they had everything done. Again, release if they get done by the end of May, on the 28th. Otherwise, give them 3 more months because they're trying to finish that one up. Gwynn Farms, Phase 3, Section 1. They said they were going to be started paving last week, and I did send them the punch list. If they do get paving completed by the expiration date, we could reduce that one to $15,000 and start the 1-year maintenance period. Otherwise, do 6 months. Blakeney, this is Section 4. This is one they haven't. It's not gone on maintenance yet. They did say they should be paving that one within the next 2 to 3 months. So I did recommend a 6-month extension on that one, so they can get that, and then maybe we can go maintenance at that time. The next 3 are all different phases of Blakeney Section 2, so would recommend a 3-month extension on all of those. Mayfield Townhomes, this is one that basically the infrastructure is essentially done, but they're not haven't haven't started building yet. I was looking at, the existing developer did request release, which we are okay with, as long as we get the replacement letter credit from the new builder, prior to that time. So, because they are in the process of selling that to someone else, so. Cedar Hills, Section 3, Phase 2, they have paved that, and so we would reduce that one to $30,600 and extend it 1 year as the maintenance bond. Cedar Park, developer on that one, they're hoping we get that paved this year, so we would recommend because they got a couple projects, commercial projects under development in there, so they kind of wanted to wait till they got done and then come in and pave. So we would recommend a 6-month extension on that one. Another phase of Blakeney, 3-month extension for them. Westover 1A, again, if they're able to get everything done, that's June 9th, which is what they believe they can do, release, otherwise extend 3 months. Tommy's Car Wash, this is for them to pave, so it's like some private roadways, private drives, but they provide access to an adjoining track. They're looking to put that adjoining track on the market for sale, and they did ask to postpone that one until that build-out is complete. I'm okay with that, but I think we are, at some point, we're gonna need to probably get that one finished up, because it is a private commercial drive, they just need to go ahead and finish it. But I'm okay with another 6 months on that, and try to get them to get that done in the next 6 months. Woodcrest 5, again, that's another one that's at the end of the maintenance period. And then Walnut Ridge as well, both the same developer. If they get done, release, otherwise 3-month extension. Hopefully, they got a month and a half, hopefully they can get those done. And that's what I got.
Any questions for Kevin concerning the bond review report? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the bond review report.
A motion to approve the bond review report. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the May bond review report, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The May bond review report is approved. Staff comments and other business.
The only thing I would just say is, we met last week with, jointly with council and discussed the mobility plan. It is still moving forward with the intention to have that on your agenda for June for approval. So hopefully that will happen, but it looks like it will. So that's all I got.
Yeah, let me add to that. You know, the guys on each end here, you know, volunteer for that, and it's not only what you see here, it's the untold hours at home going over packets and, you know, having additional meetings. So thank you to the Planning Commission for your dedication to the town and the work that you put in. Thank you. Anything else? We stand adjourned.